Your Excellencies, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, I begin with a very sincere thank you for everyone who organized this International Congress on Human Rights. A sincere thank you to all the organizers who invited us to participate from Beirut. And if I may, a very sincere thank you for His Excellency Ambassador Hisham Hamdan, who last minute accepted to join us on this Congress in order for us to reach our voices from Lebanon to Latin America and across borders. To be honest, I begin this presentation by telling you today I address you from the very same living room where on the 4th of August 2020, this is less than 3 months ago, a horrific blast of unprecedented scale took place here in Beirut, in the heart of the capital. For me, sitting here at home, I recall very vividly, you can never forget this torrent that basically threw me off from one side of the living room to the other as the building shook from side to side. And we were, it was glass in every direction here in the house. We initially thought that there was another assassination. I have lived through the assassination of Prime Minister Hariri in this very same flat in the heart of Beirut. And back then in 2005, I thought there could be nothing worse. But 3 months ago was something quite unbelievable. Walking in the streets of Beirut after this attack, which was dubbed Beirut Shima, we're still not clear 3 months later if this is a crime, if this is negligence, if this is we have no answers on very, very basic questions as our ruling elite fails to not only provide us with basic answers, despite the tremendous economic, the unbelievable, unprecedented economic and political deadlock that is bringing our people to hunger. They have failed thus far to even put together a government so that we can withstand the pressures that we are facing today. Dubbed Beirut Shima because it is the third worst explosion in the world. I walked down the streets of Beirut right after, a couple of days after, and was absolutely stunned with areas, whole regions of Beirut have been wiped off. The port no longer exists. It is a huge mass of rubble and burning. 300,000 people have been displaced from their homes. 300 people were killed. 6,000 people have been wounded. A war crime. It's a crime against humanity. And still the international community and our governments fail to provide us with basic answers. And this happens in the context of what has been also dubbed as Libanzuela. And the reason I'm using these frames, the reason I'm using these words is to challenge them. I am a media analyst, and I care very much to make sure that whenever we're discussing something, whether we call it Beirut Shima or Libanzuela, to really put the context, it's very important to speak within the right context, even if we make things alive by sharing experiences across borders and, for example, making comparisons between Lebanon and Venezuela. In South America, it's very important not to miss the context of the issues that we are addressing. Beirut Shima took place within the context of Libanzuela, which has become really a byword for political and economic crisis and humanitarian issues. For the first time in history, a country in the Arab world is actually heading towards hyperinflation. You're talking about 500% inflation surpassing 500%. You're talking about the devaluation of the Lebanese pounds by 60 to 70%. Unemployment like we have never known it. Some people, GDP has dropped by 25% this year alone. Some people are saying that some new statistics have come out to say that 75%, more than the majority of the Lebanese people today need financial aid in order to survive. The banks have imposed illegal capital controls on us, which are not allowing us to transfer our money overseas. And the situation economically is very dire. But what I really wanted to stress is that this is not an economic crisis. This is first and foremost a political crisis. Lebanon is first and foremost an international crisis. Our very particular spot in the region, we are strategically located in the region. And unfortunately, whatever issues happen in Lebanon have a spillover effect on the region and internationally. What has become very clear is that this deadlock or this economic war against Lebanon is really a question. It's really all about the geopolitics of the region, of key players who are facing a deadlock and who have challenges, and that we somehow, somewhere, the Lebanese people are being. I don't like to. I'm very uncomfortable saying that this is that we are falling prey to these agendas, because we are empowered as a people and need to take responsibility for our country and hold our rulers accountable. Since October 2019, there has been mass protests on the street that have called for this government and all the governments before it, which were basically the warlords. There have been for decades the warlords, the people, the political elites since the Civil War have been more or less the same people or the same families. For over a year, we have been protesting on the street. We have called for this government to bring in new blood, new fresh blood. The international community has stepped in to say there will be no more money for Lebanon so long as this government is not doing the reforms, because what we don't want is more debts and money coming in from overseas that they put in their pockets. So there has been a lot of pressure from key players for them to actually incorporate in this government technocrats, people who putting the right people in the right job, and really including the youth, and having a representative and legitimate government. Unfortunately, thus far, we have failed to put together this government. And it becomes really a question of Lebanon heading towards a failed state is really not a local issue or even regional. It is really an issue. The collapse of the international system and rule of law is one that impacts us as citizens across borders. And ultimately, the Millennium Development Goals, which stress the importance of providing a people with a just and dignified life free from want and fear, health, basic necessities, jobs. Until this day, we are struggling with electricity and basic infrastructure. Our seas have been so deeply polluted, and the attack on the 4th of August has left us with also an environmental crisis in our seas, in the air. We're having for days after lots of lung issues and problems that will definitely appear at a later point also. So we have been facing quite a tremendous challenge here in Lebanon. And the reason why we're reaching our voices across borders is because we believe that our purpose is to put our hands together, and really the UN Millennium Development Goals shouldn't be a case of building a city only to watch it be destroyed again and again. We have heard many people talk about Beirut, the phoenix, the Beirut that rises again and again. Well, if we are talking security, security cannot ever be achieved in a place or in a context where you have to rebuild the same city again and again and again and not hold anybody, and nobody is held accountable for its destruction. It is time for security to be on par with sustainable development, with sustainable social development. They cannot be two tracks. They have to be one and aligned so that we can move forward and live a decent and dignified life. Now, the situation becomes even more complex with the COVID pandemic. We seem to be doing very well in the beginning. When the pandemic took place, we were even making international headlines that Lebanon was doing well. Now the situation has drastically changed after the Beirut explosion on the 4th of August. After the explosion, of course, there was a lot of people doing relief. There was a lot of interaction and no more control. The government dropped as a result of this the government was pressured to step down as a result of this explosion in the port. And as a result, people were interacting more and more, and we lost control. Now, if you see, there's over 60,000 people here in Lebanon who are confirmed cases, and around 600 deaths. This is what is on records. But how much really are the numbers? It's not clear. We have reservations on these numbers because, this is at the end of the day a developing country in the region, and maybe not enough tests perhaps are being done to get the exact figures that we are dealing with. But what has been very alarming is that more than half of the cases and deaths occurred in September alone. So when you look at it within this context, it is definitely very alarming. There is clearly not a long-term strategy and enough resources for us to deal with the pandemic. And for the first time in my life, I have family and friends and people coming from overseas. We used to give them a call to ask them to get us, I don't know, to get us something from the airport, perfume, shopping. I don't know. The Lebanese, our family and friends, who used to come to town, we used to ask them for luxuries. Now I have seen with my eyes that my closest and dearest come even from overseas to deliver medications, cancer medications. We are very clearly having issues providing basic medications, whether it is cancer or other issues, and the prices have shot up. The dollar crisis with 70% of the Lebanese lira losing its value has meant that people can no longer afford. And then, you have these pharmacies or you have these situation where perhaps they are available, but they are keeping them. And then they sell them at higher prices. It has become a business. But what is more important than that, these are the minority. The majority of people do not have the medications available due to the crisis that we are facing today in Lebanon. Now, another issue of deep concern is the refugee crisis. The refugee crisis, Lebanon today is home to 1.5 to 2 million refugees from Syrian and Palestinian. In a situation where the Lebanese can barely provide for themselves, the refugees have become a very, very serious concern. Friends, we know from history, we know from looking around that where there is famine, where there is poverty, where there is no control, where there is no rule of law, there is fertile ground for extremism. And that's not only refugees, it's from everybody. So let's not discriminate against the most vulnerable. Let's protect them. Let's hold the international community responsible to critical phase. The biggest donor for UNRWA, which was the USA, is no longer providing for the Palestinians, and the Syrians are also a huge problem and are facing very dire situation, even worse than the Lebanese. And they have just fallen through the cracks of the system. And this is really an international issue that we wanted to stress. At the end of a long day, Lebanon as a failed state is really an attack on the international order and the international system, since it has it's a hub. It's so strategic in the region. It's got so many threads are tied up here, and so many issues that impact us across borders. Now, I want to wrap up by talking about what is really the way forward and why are we and His Excellency Ambassador Hisham Hamdan, why we really wanted to reach out and talk to you across borders. You see, the situation that we are facing here in Lebanon is not local. You can connect with us. We have common goals. We have in Latin America alone, you have the statistics on Google ranged anywhere from 15 to 30 million Arabs. We have one of the biggest diaspora. The Lebanese diaspora is actually in Brazil. So this is home for us. Our ancestors are actually from Brazil. So this is not only football and good food. This is heritage and culture and history. We are deeply connected, and a lot of you are actually supporting us in the region by sending money. The diaspora has played a very important role. And we are very proud of many of our diaspora who now are taking even very senior positions in places in America. Our common goals, if I were to define 5 common goals that unite us, it would be our global fight against terrorism. And here, please, I need to stress this. This Bush policy, since even though I didn't want to mention any particular politician, but this policy, this way of looking at the world since September 11 of you are either with us or with the terrorists, this is not the frame of mind. This is not the way that we need to address these common challenges. The issue is not how we label each other. The issue is how do we reach the root causes of the problem and resolve it. The strangulation of Lebanon and the economic war against Lebanon from key players. If you look at it fundamentally, you'll see it's about really strangulating on certain political parties that are blacklisted overseas. I'm not getting into that. All I am saying is that the real issues we need to address when we are addressing the region, we need to address the root causes of the problem, not look at the weapons, look at what gave them legitimacy in the first place. So we really needed to be very careful about these discourses that unite us, not divide us. Human and drug trafficking is definitely an issue. You know, when you have borders that are loose, when you have famine, when you have drugs being smuggled, they don't just end up in Latin America through parachute. There is an international network that is working across borders, and we are connected. And if anything I learned through this pandemic is just how connected we are fundamentally across borders and in every way. Money laundering and arms smuggling is definitely an issue that we share. Corruption is a prime issue for us here in Lebanon. We need support to be able to really educate a new generation of people who can fight corruption. Our political class has won the Guinness Book of Records for its corruption, and it continues without any accountability or holding them accountable. Ultimately, what unites us is a commitment to human dignity and life. You can help us in 3 fundamental ways. First, let me put on the table the of Prime Minister Hariri. You know, the Beirut explosion took place 2 days before this verdict was supposed to come out, and then it was delayed for another month, and they shared the verdict. The International Tribunal of Prime Minister Hariri was really a statement by the Lebanese and the international community to end an era of impunity for murder. It was not only about the assassination of Prime Minister Hariri, it was about the assassination of Hariri and numerous people, numerous political crimes that fall into this same, that actually were all these political crimes. They are the reason why we took it to the international court, because we didn't have the institutions in order to try them back home. Now, the International Tribunal turned out to be a very lengthy procedure. You're talking about millions, billions of dollars were spent on this, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on this tribunal. 15 years, and only a couple of months ago, a verdict for one person that left many questions unanswered, and we need to pressure to make sure that there is follow-up to get to the bottom of this, because we needed to have this example. A good example that holds somebody accountable is the way forward. With respect to the Beirut port, we also need to discuss across international borders what options do we have legally. Not after 3 months, but at the moment, whenever these things are happening, it's so important for people to come immediately on site, because all this burning and fires that happened after, sort of all the evidence is lost, or a lot of the evidence has been lost. So we needed support from the international community on legal tracks to build transparency and to build the rule of law in Lebanon. Politically speaking, you can also help us. And the international community can certainly help us. You see, these warlords that have imposed a sectarian regime here in Lebanon and that have survived all these decades, they have people who are supporting them overseas. And we all know who they are. They are these sectarian warlords. All of them are aligned with key players in the region and overseas. And they are actually supporting the status quo, or supporting or stifling the cry and the voices of the people here. Since they could not survive alone, they are getting support from the international community and key players. And we need you to start supporting us, supporting the women, supporting the minorities, supporting the people, supporting the youth, supporting the people who want to build a nation, not a conflict zone or a jungle. In terms of economic reforms, we are very happy to see the international community is stepping down on this political class to say that there will be no money so long as they will not do the needed reforms to make sure that whatever we build, we are building not for it to be destroyed overnight again and we start all over. And of course, ultimately, the security of the region, the human security, is really part of a collective security, where there is no just solution to key files in the region. Of course, Palestine being a key file, as well as other files which are really important, unless there is a solution, a just solution to the refugees and to key issues on the table, not from a short-term, self-interested or personally interested goals, but to do it in a way that serves our collective security and it serves our human dignity. It serves us as human beings and protects us and our rights. Finally, I would say that we can collaborate with you, with Latin America, and we would very much like to collaborate with Latin America. You are such an important voice. The elections are coming up right now. You're such an important voice in the back. You're an important voice in these elections, and we have this connection with the diaspora that is so many of us between you also in this region. We would like to explore ways of really collaborating in terms of corruption. I know that one key member, for example, has an academy to fight corruption in Europe. We need to train a new generation of leaders who can actually deal with corruption and they can fight corruption. We would like to also collaborate in terms of building the legal institutions and rule of law and these international legal tracks that support you and us. You can support us also through Lebanese. There's many businesses right now in Lebanon that are falling, and this is really important for me to say. The Lebanese businessmen and manufacturers who have actually been brought to bankruptcy with these illegal capital controls. What is happening right now is that the same political elite that broke you is actually taking over your businesses and your investments. And you know that in these very turbulent times, there's high risk, yes, but there's also a lot of opportunity for good investment. And for the Arab and the Lebanese diaspora in Latin America, as well as the businessmen all over the world, we urge you not to think how if you put $1, you will take it back. We urge you to think how if you invest now, you're actually saving this $1 for the people and building, not allowing our investments to go to the political elite who are actually, their power bases are being, they are growing their power bases on our backs as they break us further. In order to open a new page, in order to open a new leaf, a new chapter, we needed to make sure that our investments go to the right people, especially on the border. With the Lebanese-Syrian border, for example, you have an area and the Bekaa is filled with factories. These factories must not fall. We need the support of the international, of key players overseas in order to support these families so that we can grow our manufacturing and make sure that these very volatile, risky areas do not fall for the wrong people. This is the way you build security, by making sure these zones do not fall in the wrong hands. And of course, you can help us by getting involved. There's so many ways that you can actually get involved in order to take our voices to your governments and to social media and to the media and in every way, as well as research. I conclude with something that I would like to conclude with a quote from Khalil Gibran. But before I share this quote, I want you to know that when I visited Argentina a couple of years ago, when I visited His Excellency Ambassador Hisham Hamdan, I will never forget how in the middle of very late in the evening with his lovely wife, we were in the car. He would actually get out of the car with a torch, and he insisted that I see the memorial with a torch. he insisted that I see the memorial of Gibran, Khalil Gibran, right outside near the embassy of Lebanon in Argentina. And it spoke volumes to me because, you know, across borders, Beirut and Lebanon and the Lebanese people have always been a people that embraced other cultures, that have taken their heritage. Khalil Gibran is a very well-known poet and a legacy. He's a legacy figure. So across borders, we have these connections. They are hearty connections, history, culture. And I end with a quote that really stresses what His Excellency Ambassador Hisham Hamdan was clearly saying in his speech. Khalil Gibran says, "Do not be merciful, but be just, for mercy is bestowed upon the guilty criminal, while justice is all that the innocent man requires." And this is all that we want. We wanted justice, justice for Lebanon, justice for the region, a justice that unites us and not divides us. Thank you very much for for inviting me to participate in this Congress. And I would like to take any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Merhi. It's very pleasure for us to stay with you here. And I have some questions for you. And today I have coronavirus. I have. It's my last day of the quarantine. Yeah. Today is my last day.
Bless your heart.
Yes. I'm so good.
Bless your heart. Thank you for being able to join us despite these difficult situation for you. I'm very sorry, and I wish you speedy recovery.
No, it's good. It's good. Just to contribute to debate, the corruption for me is the major cause that affects human rights. I think so. And I will translate for you the questions for you answer. Okay?
Sure.
From Ana Lívia Paese Zekowski. I don't have any questions, but I want to, I think so, we are condescendent with Lebanon people and hope you'll get justice. I'm very sorry with the thing happening in this country. Hope you get the justice. We are part of the same world and have responsibility to help. And now, really the question. What can countries concrete to do in order to help Lebanon at this time? Maria Luisa Nascimento.
Thank you very much for these sentiments and for the question. Certainly, it's very important at this moment in time and to exert maximum pressure from the international community for our political, for our government to actually do the necessary reforms for us to have any hope of survival. To really pressure these governments when the money is coming in from overseas, from Latin America, from Europe. It's very important to pressure these governments to make sure that the money that is coming in goes to the right people, to really support the women, support the youth, support the NGOs at the grassroots. And this has been, we have seen this has been wonderful to see that more and more donors are refusing to give money actually to the government. They're going direct to the grassroots, to the NGOs, so that we are able to survive at this critical juncture. But more than anything, it is really about support from an international perspective to really explore venues to hold them accountable legally for what is happening. Beirut is the Beirut crime. The Beirut port crime is like a city that was destroyed and nobody was held accountable.
Okay. Another question. Teacher, how in a country with relatively small dimensions and populations considered the poor of the Orient can reach that point?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
How in a country, how Lebanon, considered relatively small dimensions, yeah, and populations created a poor of the Orient can reach that point? Really, I don't know. Another.
Saying how can Lebanon reach this point? Yes, I think that the whole world and the Lebanese are looking in disbelief. This, Lebanon has always been, especially Beirut. Beirut is a cosmopolitan hub for the world. It was dubbed the city of the book. It is a place where civilizations between East and West mingle. It's always been the place where Arabs in the region come and enjoy the best summers, the best Christmases. We have a lively and amazing culture and spirit. And it's unbelievable to see just how in 1 year, Lebanon today, I don't think people talk about Lebanon being a failed state. I think it is already a failed state. I mean, you're having over 500% inflation rate. We're the first country in the region to face hyperinflation. This has only happened in places like Venezuela and few other countries. But here in the Arab world, we are a country to be going through this crisis. And I repeat, it's not an economic crisis. This is political. The strangulation of Lebanon is an economic war. This happens when you have key players and regional players trying to strangulate certain political actors to break them. And what ends up happening is they destroy everybody else in the process too.
Yeah. And the last one. Good morning, teacher. There are public programs in Lebanon to assist families in searching for their missing relatives due to the violent clashes.
Well, the port crime took place 3 months ago, so we have no hope that there is anybody still alive. The efforts when the explosion took place, and it is a crime against humanity. This explosion that took place 3 months ago. They took so much time to actually clear the dead from the rubble. Many people remained missing. So it was a tragedy over a tragedy. Some NGOs blessed them, and people came from overseas to help us find when the key players here locally failed us. But by now, I think we have lost any hope that there still remains anybody in the rubble. And if I join you today, and if I wanted to join this International Congress on Human Rights and reach our voices, it is because I know many of them have passed away. They are dead. They have gone into another place. And we, the living, must be their voices when key people and players have failed them. We have to continue. We have to continue. We have to fight for their rights. We are fighting for human dignity and life, not only for the living, but for the dead. Justice for the dead. This is the only way that you build security. This is the only way that you build a future. This is the only way that you have any hope that this region will be stable and secure.
Okay, Miss Rima Merhi, thank you for your speech. It's so good for us. I'm proud to participate with you. and it's good for us to receive you in Palmas, Tocantins, to know this beautiful state. Brazil is a good country, a good people, good citizens, and thank you so much.
I'm both proud and humbled to have participated. I hope that in another time you will come and visit us in our beautiful country. I thank you for your warmth and your hospitality. Actually, thank you to all of you. Edmundo, Professor Edmundo has several times invited me to Brazil through the forum, and Brazil is a very, and Latin America, all of it has a very special place in our heart. And it's so important for us to be connected. And if I tell you one last thing, I would like to tell you what brought me to Brazil in 2012. I came to Brazil because you key people in Brazil were actually, and this mission is still work in progress. They wanted to establish the first the third World University for Security and Social Development. And I came to Brazil with an open heart, eager to really build security, but not the security where I watch a country destroyed again and again and without sustainable development. I really hope that you continue this mission. We are standing by you. I will cross borders and see you anytime and remain connected. And anybody wants to reach out, I'm readily available. We hope that to open lines for collaboration. Myself, I went to Brazil hoping that I can be part of your initiative to train a new generation of leaders that doesn't talk terrorism, that talks the language of security and social development, which go hand in hand. So thank you very much. All my love and respect to all of you. Hoping that you visit us soon and that I will be visiting Brazil also in the coming year. And
Okay,
and
thank
my
you so.
wish is for you to get there. This is my first and only really wish for the coming years for all the people we love, to if they get the virus, for them to be well. So be well, please, as a priority, and God bless you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Rima Merhi. I have a lot of friends from Lebanon. It's a great citizen, great people, and thank you so much. Então, estou dando por encerrada. God bless you
next
too.
Time. Sorry?
Okay, thank you. Sorry? Thank you so much.
Hopefully we will meet.
Okay, me too.